Hi Catherine, I hope you enjoyed the summer camp. So we're taking a look at your freestyle here. Now I feel like your freestyle is a really nice stroke for you. There's a lot of things you do really well. I feel like you're sitting fairly high in the water and you've got a nice consistent stroke rate and pretty good stroke count. I feel like we'll be able to improve your distance per stroke if we'd make a few adaptations. So your underwater setup looks good, your fly kick's good, head position looks good, but your first movement is to pull wide. Okay, so what I want you to do instead of pulling wide is to press down, because if you pull wide, you don't get any press, any lift on the water. And I feel like one of the big things you can see here is as your arm busts out of the water, it's dragging a lot of water with us. You can see how your arm is wide away from the body. You get into a full extension and your whole arm is entering at the same time. Similarly, on the right arm, you can see it's a straight arm-ish recovery. Again, quite wide away from the body. All the arm hits the water at the same time, so it creates quite a bit of a splash. Now, this wide recovery is tough on your balance. The further away something is from your center line, the harder it is to kind of hold yourself stable. And a big part of the reason you're doing that is that your hips are flat. So your hips being flat and your stroke being flat means that you have difficulty taking a breath, because your body, your chest, your body, your hips facing down towards the floor, so you're having to twist your head to get your head out of the water. And if you do that, that also breaks your spine, breaks your posture by twisting your spine, and you're also leaving your head to the side for a little bit too long, as you can see there. So if you're taking a breath, your head should be back in before your arm has finished entering, so it's smooth onto the next stroke. If you leave your head to the side for too long, it messes up the timing of the stroke. So you can see the same again here. Look, your head should now be facing back down towards the water, but everything's sort of entering at the same time. You have to twist your head quite quickly to try and get your head back in position, and it's meaning a shift towards the side. See, your weight actually shifts to your left after you breathe to your left, and your right after you breathe to your right. And we can see that from this head-on position as well, coming underwater. Now, we only take a breath about every 5 strokes. It's not happening too often. You can see after you've taken that breath, you kind of move out that direction a few inches. So we're not even in the length. We want to make sure, again, look, see you jolt towards the side there slightly. Something we want to look at and address. The big reason we're doing that is that we're coming off the time, off the 3/4 catch-up timing when you breathe. So also with the balance, make sure we're not crossing that center line. You see again on both hands, your hand entering is going across your face. And I think that's because you're swinging wide on recovery and the whole arm's entering at once. We're also, as we're starting to pull, we're pressing down with a straight arm. Now that's very difficult. You can't put too much pressure through a straight arm pull down. So it's not until you get to this point that you get your elbow high and you're able to drive back. But we're missing almost the most important part of the stroke, being out in front in this position here with a high elbow catch. Pressing down in a straight line gives you much more power, and it enables us to start being able to connect up that hand and body. At the moment, you have what we call a arm dominant stroke. We want to change to being body dominant. So if the core is engaged, it will correct a lot of these mistakes that we can see here. So the core gets engaged by tilting the hip bone up towards the shoulders and pulling the belly button in, flattening off that back. Now, we practiced that quite a few times on land over the camp. We also practiced it with flotation drills at the beginning of the session on the freestyle, and we kept referring back to it. Now, it's a difficult thing to change right from the beginning. Good head position, as you can see here, look, is very important. Make sure you're not twisting your spine, turning your head, but that's what's happening when you take a breath. See, as you lift your head and then twist towards the side, that's going to change the alignment of your spine, and you can see how it makes that hip drop straight away by doing so. Also encourages you to drop off that timing. So that timing 3/4 catch up, very important, especially on a breaststroke. So to make sure you're doing that, leave your lead arm out in front of you, your pulling arm, for a fraction of a second longer on a breaststroke to a non-breaststroke, because it takes longer to do a breaststroke. Also think about trickle breathing. Make sure you're breathing out under the water. You're not holding your breath until you need to turn your head to your side. That may be part of the reason why your head's to the side so long on that breaststroke, because you're trying to breathe out and in as your head's to the side. So on your underwater phase, try to think about transitioning fly kicks into freestyle kicks just before you start that first pull, and make sure you're not turning. See that right hand there, little finger down, left hand has gone out towards the side. Palms want to start each stroke face down. Palm down towards the floor, and you press, get onto a high elbow catch. We can see here, look, that elbow dropping and then flaring out towards the side, palm coming out towards the side. We don't want to be in that position. We want to make sure that elbow point is going to go up, pressing down with the palm, elbow goes high, and then you drive back in a straight line. And again, you can see on a breaststroke, that lead arm should be along that green line at that point. It's going to give you a lot more balance. You see, having to go really wide with the leg kick on a breaststroke to try and find some balance in the stroke. Being in the position where we're rotating the hips as we enter allows us to get to a position where we're able to connect up that opposite hand and hip and put the force into that body if we've got onto that high elbow catch. So like we said, once the core's engaged, then you can start to become body dominant, drive the rotation from the hips, it lengthens out the stroke, but gets you in that position where your hand and hip can get connected, put the force into the body, and it's going to mean that you've got a lot more efficiency in the stroke. You're not having to use the shoulders so much, your back's not going to be arched, your head's not going to be feeling like we need to lift to be able to twist to breathe, because as you rotate your entire body, your chin and sternum can stay in line, so it keeps your posture while you're swimming. As we look from above the water, on the surface it looks like a nice stroke, but to me it's looking like it's a little bit paddly. It's almost like you're laying on a bodyboard or a surfboard and you're just kind of paddling with your arms. So to take a breath, that's where it becomes difficult. And you're putting bad habits in slightly here, look, lifting that head and then twisting towards the side. If you're doing that, you can't connect the breath into the stroke. That's when, if you think about that second drill we did, or the early drills, we had our hands on the front of the hips, fins on, snorkel on, and we're just working on that rotation. As you come to take a breath, on a non-breath stroke, you're just going to keep your head still. On a breath stroke, you're just going to keep your chin and sternum in line. This flat stroke, as it says there, encourages this wide recovery. Again, that challenges the balance, and it also makes your shoulders work very hard. So we want to try and get away from that and this paddling stroke. So use a lot of the drills we did on the camp. Just try to think about being neater, as in everything being narrower. I feel like exit drill would work quite well for you, where you're just thinking about the elbow leading the recovery, and then your elbow wants to stay close towards your body, leading the recovery. Your hand's going to go under your elbow all the way until it's past your head. That way the stroke always feels like it's in the front of the stroke. I've just included some videos here of Amy swimming so we can talk about some of the key points there. Notice the hips, notice the rotation, see how she lets the legs kick all the way around from one side all the way around to the other, and as she takes a breath, it's timed, it's built into the stroke. See, the eye line stays down here, she's not looking for the surface. As she enters, she's not rushing onto that catch. Hands are still going forward, can still keep one goggle in the water as she takes that breath. She's on that three-quarter catch-up look, and look at that pulling arm. Elbows high, palms pointing straight back at that point, fingertips down to the floor, driving back in that straight line, and that rotation allows her to get that connection between one side and the other. So another good drill that you might like to practice would just be a simple single arm. You could have a board under the still arm, the leading arm, and you could just think about being neat. Notice as Amy enters, it's not the entire arm. It's just the fingertips, and then it's the hip rotation, which actually makes her hand drive forwards. She wants to rotate in both directions. When you've got that down, you can use single arm alternating, so you're coming back to a flat position each time, and just want to think about starting that shape of that pull by pressing down in a straight line, feeling that press connected to the core, drive back in a straight line, and then elbow exiting that recovery, and then it's going to stay leading that recovery until it comes past your head. And think about timing that three-quarter catch-up into a breaststroke in particular. You're not bad on the three-quarter timing until it comes to a breaststroke, and that's when it needs to change and take a little bit more concentration. Okay, Catherine, I hope all that makes sense. If you've got any questions, get back in touch, let us know, and we'd love to help you out. Hope it helps, and we'll see you again soon.